Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeff Vaughn.
And I'm Lena Wynn. Tonight, the showdown that could change the direction of campaign 2016 is about to unfold. We're counting down to the Wisconsin primary.
Yeah, the presidential candidates crisscross the state last into the night, searching for those undecided voters to sway the two close races, making Wisconsin a real cliffhanger. KCAL9 political reporter Dave Bryan joins us now with a look at what is at stake tomorrow in the Badger State. Dave?
Plenty at stake, and the candidates were flying. They were all over the state today. Wisconsin isn't the biggest state in the country, and it doesn't have the most convention delegates in either party, but there's nothing cheesy about tomorrow's Wisconsin primary that could have a major impact on who wins the Democratic and Republican nominations, after both frontrunners have had recent setbacks.
There are two candidates and only two candidates who have any plausible path to becoming the Republican nominee, me and Donald Trump.
At a Wisconsin primary eve rally in Waukesha, Ted Cruz, who's leading in the statewide GOP polls as he chases Donald Trump, told his supporters the outcome on Tuesday could be a game changer for the Republican nomination.
A victory here tomorrow will resonate across this country, will change the outcome in states to come all across this country.
In a campaign stop at the Mars Cheese Castle in Kenosha, Cruz claimed he's taken the momentum away from Trump.
If we have a good night tomorrow, that'll be 4 states in a row where Donald Trump has gotten whooped.
Your vote is going to be very important tomorrow because the world is watching Wisconsin.
At a hastily arranged and surprisingly subdued rally in Milwaukee, Trump appeared to be exasperated, railing against the third GOP candidate, John Kasich, whom he urged to end his campaign and get out of the race.
Kasich, I don't think he's a player here. The guy's 1-32. He's won, and it was his own state. And if I would have campaigned there 2 more days instead of staying in Florida, I would have won, in my opinion, Ohio. He's taken my votes. So we have to get over 50%.
Kasich responded that he sure is taking votes away from Trump and will continue to do so, because he says he has no intention of dropping out.
They're attacking me in Wisconsin for a guy that's not doing very well. They sure are worried about me and spending a lot of money trying to knock me out, but they're not going to be successful.
One of Trump's biggest problems is declining numbers among women voters. So these days, at some of his rallies, he's sharing the podium with his wife, Melania, and with Melissa Young, a former Miss Wisconsin beauty pageant winner.
This is the greatest man I have ever met. His heart is made of pure gold.
Claremont McKenna professor Jack Pitney says the Wisconsin primary could be a telling moment in the race for the GOP nomination.
If Trump wins Wisconsin, then he's probably going to win on the first ballot. If he loses Wisconsin, he will still have a large delegate lead, but there's a chance that he could be stopped on that first ballot, particularly if Ted Cruz does well in the climactic California primary on June 7th.
On the Democratic side, the latest CBS News Battleground Tracker poll shows Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton running almost neck and neck in a statistical tie in Wisconsin.
In the last few weeks alone, California, New York State, $15 an hour.
For Bernie Sanders, raising the minimum wage has been a signature issue, but it was Hillary Clinton, not Sanders, who celebrated with New York's governor.
This is such a great day for our state.
Clinton favors raising the federal minimum wage to $12 an hour. Sanders would raise it to $15. And she's turning up the heat on Sanders, who has won the last 5 Democratic contests. She argues her more modest approach is more doable and smarter, like on college tuition relief for middle-class students.
Now, Senator Sanders, as I said, has the same goal. He advocates for free college. Now, that means free for everybody, including Donald Trump's kids. I don't think we need to do that. I think we need to focus on where the problem is. Middle-class families, working families, poor families.
But right now, it's Sanders who's on a roll.
We have won 6 out of the last 7 caucuses and primaries. Tomorrow, if there is a good turnout here in Wisconsin, if there is a record-breaking turnout here in Wisconsin, we are going to win here as well.
Now, most analysts still believe Hillary Clinton is in a very strong position to win the Democratic nomination, despite Sanders' recent success in caucuses and primaries. But some of that confidence is based on her massive lead, more than 400 among superdelegates, party leaders and elected officials who are not elected delegates. And Jeff, that could become an issue as well.